I arrived in the Netherlands on a nice September day, was picked up at the airport. The guy drove me all the way to a student building here in Wageningen, in Asa Park. He took me to the room, and when I looked at this room, it looked half empty. I looked around at the furniture, and I thought to myself, what have I done? He showed me the kitchen, one of the most dirtiest kitchens I'd ever seen. And I stood there and I thought, I've left my wife. We had just gotten married. I've left a big house in Zimbabwe to come to a student room with a student bed. The guy said, welcome to the apartment. He said, but my impression of an apartment for a master's student is not this one. And he says, well, and he left me. I thought, I need to sit down. So I went into what was supposed to be the common living room. I sat down on the couch, my eyes closed, and I uttered a prayer. And I opened my eyes expecting to see some angel. But I saw a different kind of angel. It was a huge pin-up poster of I won't say what. And just as if that was not enough, as I exclaimed, my God, trying to get out of that room, what was supposed to be one of my corridor mates, as they are called, ran out of the toilet in just her underwear. And I was like, my God, what have I come to? My name is Farai Maphosa. I come from Zimbabwe. My name means be happy, so now you just have to be happy. I've been living in the Netherlands for 22 years, and I'm going to tell you my story. And within my story, I'm going to tell you how culture is a transformation, how my migration story has transformed my life and brought me through to this place. Starting with that culture shock. The second one was they had told me it never snows in October. In the year I came to the Netherlands, it snowed in October. Migration is more than a movement. It's more than a shifting from one place to another. It's actually a metamorphosis. It has been for me. Coming here from Zimbabwe, I didn't just change geography, but I had to change my lenses. Apparently, I also started wearing glasses in the Netherlands. What I had considered as being normal from my upbringing, from my life, was suddenly confronted with new realities. I suddenly had to see things differently. For example, I was taught you greet people. And here I would enter an elevator, somebody walks in, nobody greets you, and then when they go out, you hear, "Doei, doei." And in the beginning, what does doei mean? And then somebody says, it means bye. Says, so they are happy to say goodbye, but never to say hello. It was a new reality that I was being confronted with. I visited someone and they said, you don't have an appointment right now. It's actually my time to be reading the newspaper. In Zimbabwe, if you visit someone anytime, they will go out of their way to accommodate you. If they don't have food in the house, they will go to the groceries and buy food so that you can eat and share. And then I went to a party. It was a birthday party. In my impression of a birthday party, this is going to be live music. You go in with comfortable shoes, but everybody was sitting in a big circle in the room. And then a cookie pot came, and I was observing everyone was picking one cookie. And then the cookie pot was closed and taken back to the kitchen. In Zimbabwe, the food is placed right there. You eat as much as you want. So new realities. I had to see things from a different lens. And time management became a big deal. Tomorrow is another day. Here, you are late, and I look at my watch. I've got 5 minutes still to go, but I'm being considered late. It was confronting. It was challenging. And the different sense of community. And so through all this, I heard of a program where you could become part of a family. And I'm pleased to notice that part of that family is here today, where you could learn how to be here in the Netherlands and be part of a family. And Familie Geeken helped me to become part of the new environment I was in. So I attended their birthdays. I went all the way to Belgium and into small villages where people looked at me like, what's he doing here? But it was great because it opened my eyes to see things from a different perspective. Migration brings us into a cultural reorientation. It expands our horizons. It expands the way we view things and the way we see things. In Zimbabwe, I'd learned about my culture as being the way we live, as being something that gives me identity. And I was suddenly in a place where I needed to realize that there were new identities that were there, that I had to recognize and acknowledge. And I also got to learn that what I considered as my culture also came with its own misgivings and limitations. And in that, migrating over to Europe brought these transitions in my life that reshaped everything I thought I knew. From social perspective, from a professional perspective, but also from a spiritual point of view. This reshaped my understanding also of what identity and belonging actually means. It started such a huge transformation that I got to realize that what I called culture is actually dynamic. It is actually multifaceted. It is actually continuously evolving. It is collective. So we say the Dutch culture, but also the Zimbabwean culture. There is a collection, the European culture, the American culture, the African culture. And Africa is not one country, by the way. But it is collective. And yet it is also very personal. It is also about how you interact with others. Some 18 or so years ago, we're doing a marriage counseling seminar. And we had this couple, husband was Nigerian, the wife was Dutch. And they said, in our home, we've tried to do the Dutch way. It's not working. We tried the Nigerian way. It's not working. So we have decided to form our own culture. And it got me thinking, what then is culture? And culture is something that we all consider as being the norm, the way we will behave, the way we will interact. It gives us an identity. Two key definitions I'm going to use just to become scholarly because I'm in Wageningen is one from Fons Trompemans, who says, culture is the shared ways in which groups of people understand and interpret the world. Culture makes us interpret things. So, for example, if I say this, many of you will probably think I'm saying no. In other cultures, this is yes. It's just the way we as a group interpret it. The collective programming of the mind, which distinguishes the members of one group from another, is another definition by which we can look at culture. This is a definition from Geert Hofstede. And these two definitions of culture have helped me to form how I view things. And from this, culture gives us an identity, a place of belonging. Identity matters. Identity is seen in many ways, in the language, we speak, in the appearance and the dressing, in the habits, in the food, in the socialization we make. I got here and I learned to eat sandwiches for lunch with caramel milk. And then I moved to France, and I was happy with my sandwiches and caramel milk for lunch. And they said, you're doing it all wrong. You need to have a proper meal. So I learned to have a 3-course meal at lunch. The first few days I felt so full I didn't want to work anymore. But after a while I realized how much it made me feel like I'm part of the community I was with. And my assistant at that time said to me, if you want your team to love you, you come and have coffee with them in the morning, you have lunch for 1 hour with them, make sure you take a dessert. And I looked at how I bonded with the people. And so the day I left and came back to the Netherlands, several of my team members said, oh, we're going to miss you. And I said, but you have a new boss who's better than me. And say, oh, but you were with us, you ate with us, you lived with us. Why? Because culture gives us an identity. It helps us to connect in ways beyond our own thinking. It makes us to become a part of another. It frames our conversations and the context in which we are able to then thrive. And I went to India, and for the first time I had somebody asks me, non-veg or veg? And so I said, what do you mean non-veg? I said, non-veg means the dish has meat. I said, but you should be asking meat or veg. No, it's non-veg or veg. And so I had to again reframe how I had been used to going into a restaurant or into a home here in Europe, where they are mostly almost by default thinking everybody is going to eat meat. And so they ask you if you want vegetarian. Here was non-veg or veg. And a Danish friend of mine once came to me and said, Farai, we have been invited to a party. Let's go eat some steaks. I said, but we're going to a party. And says, well, I'm very sure the party will not have meat there, so let's go eat some steaks before the party. And I reflected on why did he come to me, not to everybody else? Because in many of our conversations and socializations, we had come to find that we had something in common. We loved eating steaks. And from the cultures he was coming from, the culture I come from, a good chunk of meat is great value in a meal. And so we tend to then gather towards people or towards those who think or behave in ways like ourselves. But in order to navigate through all these maze of cultures, even as I look at all of you here, I can already see the diversity of cultures that are sitting in this room. But not only do I see the diversity of cultures, I also see how we have set amongst ourselves because of something that seems common to one another. And so to navigate all these things and to keep our identity or to keep my identity, I speak for myself, I always ask myself some 3 simple questions. What is it that defines me at this moment? Is it that I'm a husband? Or is it that I'm a dad? Is it that I am a manager in the company? Is it that I'm an advocate of a position? Is it that I'm a friend? Or is it that I'm an enemy? I'm defining myself. Because then, in the context of where I find myself amongst a group of people, I also can define the people who are there with me. Are they for me or against me? And I see your eyes are all for me. And the third question I ask myself is, what is important in this moment? What is important as I navigate through this space? These questions help me because sometimes when we are confronted with all kinds of cultures and all kinds of norms, migration with everything that it brings along with it, the nuances and the changes that you have to experience, you sometimes need something deeper than just what you see on the surface. And so for me, when I ask these questions, it also helps me to find the place of my faith, where faith helps me to navigate the space. Over the last 20 years, I've been a pastor of a multicultural church, sometimes made up of people from multi-denominations as well. I find the deep cultural shifts of all those people that I interact with and have interacted with over the last 20 years need something that anchors me to that which is important. And I found that my faith, and like many of those people that I've interacted with, their faith, their belief in something at the core helps them to navigate through life. It holds people together. People who would have gone in very divergent and conflicting ways tend to find each other because there's something that's deeper, something that's more fundamental at the core. And being in a multicultural church community has helped me to reinterpret those cultural norms, things that people would have said, this is normal. Another says, this is not normal. A Dutch phrase I've become to love, het is niet normaal. It helps me to find deeper meaning to leadership and service. And as I go through all this, I've also been privileged to work for a multicultural and a multinational organization, which has allowed me to travel to over 40 countries and to interact with so many different cultures and so many different perspectives. And I've been able to expand my view of the world through all this. From beautiful California to ancient Beijing, from the ancient olive orchards in Crete, all the way to the sophistication of Shanghai, from the deep tunnels across Switzerland to the roads that are flying high over the skylines of many cities, from the heat of Uganda and Ghana to the cold of Finland and Iceland, and to be in all these places where you see snow as high as a mountain. From the happy communities I've interacted with in Africa where they have nothing but just themselves, to sometimes the loneliness that I experience in Europe when we seem to have everything at our disposal. It's ways that how do we then navigate through all this maze of life? You have to constantly change the lens in which you view things. And so today, I just want to bring this to you, that culture can be a comfort, but also a cage. But we do not necessarily need to be caged by culture. It can also allow us to grow when we confront that which is normal. I realize that culture isn't fixed. It's fluid. It's adopting. It's adapting. It absorbs. It transforms. Embracing cultural diversity has helped me to build bridges in both workplaces and community places, but also in church and in interaction in all things that pertain to my life. And I've learned some lessons in all this time, and I want to leave you with these 3 lessons this afternoon. The first one is that culture expands our perspective. Being exposed to different traditions, values, ways of life broadens how we see the world. It helps us to understand that there isn't just one way to live or think or solve problems. There are many ways. And it builds an open-mindedness, an empathy, and a creativity. The second lesson that I've learned in my story of migration and the transformation that I've undergone is that culture strengthens identity and confidence. I've become stronger in understanding who I am, why I think the way I think, how unique I am. Culture gives us stories and symbols and shared experiences. Sitting to eat from one big dish in Peru and sitting in a nice fancy French restaurant, eating cow brain with a fork and knife. Shared experiences and stories that we all gather as we go. It makes or gives us a strong sense of identity that boosts resilience, self-esteem, and purpose. All these are aspects that are important for personal growth. Culture, number 3, is that it improves collaboration and innovation. Working for a multicultural organization, understanding the different dimensions of culture has helped me to collaborate and work effectively with people. In mornings, I'm sometimes talking to people in China. In the evening, I'm talking to people on the west coast of United States. I'm talking to people in South Africa and people in Russia, all these different cultures at the same time and everything else in between. It helps us to lead and to be better at our teamwork, to be more inclusive in decision-making, and also to find innovative solutions, because the world has so many solutions for us to harness. These are essential for leadership and for organizational growth. I want to close and say, culture is not a script or an inheritance. It is actually a pen. It is a pen that can rewrite stories, that can rewrite narratives. So I put a call to action to you to rewrite your narrative. Use culture as a way to learn, to grow, to transform. So I dare you to cross the street, to cross a border, cross a river, cross a sea, cross an ocean, discover something new, and let the cultures around us transform us, grow us, mold us into better people, and make this world a better place. Thank you.